Hey, everybody, it's Steve Van Tassel coming at you for Dynasty Owner. And we are going to we got our weekly article, and we're going to talk about startup drafts. We actually had startup drafts in Dynasty Owner the past weekend. On Saturday, 11 leagues, newly formed startup leagues, had their initial startup draft. And we've got some data to go over from those startup drafts. Very exciting for those of you who like to track ADP, see what other people are doing, or just want to know what's going on, see who was drafted, how they were drafted, what was drafted. People actually drafted this weekend, and that's great news for everybody in Dynasty Owner, because pretty soon the rest of us are going to be able to draft. Some of us are going to be doing rookie drafts, other of us are going to be doing startup drafts, but pretty soon everybody will be drafting. The rookie drafts are going to start on the 28th, and you can sign up, join Dynasty Owner, pay your $29, and get your startup team and draft soon, maybe even this weekend or next weekend. So without further ado, what we're going to do is we are going to talk about those 11 startup drafts, and basically they go up to 11. As Nigel Tufnell from Spinal Tap said, we're up to 11. So here we are talking about the first 11 Dynasty Owner startup drafts. And the first question we have is, who's number one? Who is the number one pick? Who did people take number one? Last year, we had a pretty good consensus. Most people knew it was going to be either Lamar Jackson or Christian McCaffrey, as they were the 1-2 in Dynasty Owner fantasy points the previous year. And they had pretty reasonable salaries. Both of them were under $5 million. But this year, it's a little bit different. A lot of the guys who were great picks last year got new contracts and have higher salaries than the double digits. So the question is, were those guys still taken? Was it one of the 5 players who finished in the top 25 last year, but whose salaries are still under $10 million? Or was it somebody completely different? And the answer is somebody completely different. It's Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Taylor wasn't even in the top 5 at his own position last year. He finished 6th last year. But he's got a friendly salary cap contract of under $2 million a year, and he was drafted with his ADP in the 11 Dynasty Owner startup drafts was 1.9. Means he was drafted in first in 6 Dynasty Owner drafts, and in 5 drafts he was not selected first, but he was selected second twice, third twice, and 5th once for an ADP of 1.9. So congratulations to Jonathan Taylor and all of his owners. The next thing we want to know is, well, who was drafted in the first round? And we find out that we've got 27 different players were selected in the first round. We had 13 running backs, 7 quarterbacks, 5 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. And this is a little different than last year with the tight ends. And last year we had no tight ends taken in the first round at all. But this year we had Darren Waller and Travis Kelce both drafted in the first round, which was very exciting. But the thing we noted, so what did we notice about this? Sorry about that. Well, one thing we noticed is that some about the players who drafted in the first round and their salaries. If you remember one of my articles previously, we talked about players not being drafted who made over $10 million a year. And it seemed like that wasn't listened to very much, as 3 out of 10 people took a player with a salary of over $10 million in the first round. Last year, we saw that only 6% of league winners drafted a player with that salary amount, even though 12% of teams drafted that player. So we'll see if those 30%, those teams are playing with fire a little bit in terms of their quest to win a Dynasty Owner championship. And next, as we saw a little preview before, we're going to talk about the salary cap usage. So this was a big topic. I wrote a few articles about this. So what percentage of the salary cap did people use? I mean, it's $127.75 million this year. And we see that about 25% of those people who drafted went right up pretty close to the limit. We had $127 million or higher was 25%, 33 of those teams. And congratulations are in order for the Mantis Toboggans in League 55784, who spent all but $6,013 of their salary cap money. At the opposite end, we see that 9% of teams, 12 of them spent under $100 million, with the extreme team being Miserable F in League 55319, who spent less than half. He spent only a little over $62 million, that team, in the draft. But as you can see, the mean was $117.4 million, which is about a little under $10 million under the salary cap, which tracks pretty closely with the percentage that we recommended that all league owners left on the table last year. That was about 8.7% of the salary cap, which this year would translate into about 11.1 million. And we can see the teams left just a little bit under that, but pretty close. So very interesting. So the next question we have is, what about Deshaun? That was kind of a fascinating issue, I thought, was what were people going to do? I mean, for the people who had last year, once his new contract of $39 million kicked in, after all the accusations came out about him, he was dropped in a lot of leagues. His ownership now is like 44%. So teams had chance after his new salary became active in Dynasty Owner, you had 7 days, his owners, to either drop him free of charge or keep him and take on that new salary. And it was split pretty evenly. I'm sure in some leagues he was dropped and then added, but his ownership is only about 44% now. But in the startup drafts, it was very interesting that he was drafted in 8 leagues and his ADP was 30.9, which is incredibly high, I feel like. I mean, that's higher than the other players in his salary range, Dak Prescott and Patrick Mahomes, who were nowhere near as high on an ADP. But the other side of the coin was that he wasn't drafted in 3 leagues. So in 3 leagues, nobody took a chance on Deshaun Watson. He's just sitting there in the free agent auction. So this is fascinating, and it'll be fascinating to see who's right. Is that the 8 teams who drafted him, or the 3 teams who didn't? Okay, next we have what we call our fan club presidents. And this is an interesting, if you follow Dynasty on fantasy football on Twitter, you'll hear a lot about this. We're talking about people who love somebody so much that they draft them in every league. They draft them way too high. They just want to have him. Dynasty Owner Tim is famous he loves DJ Moore. He will overpay for DJ Moore. He will overpay on a trade for DJ Moore. He loves him some DJ Moore. In the past couple of years ago, I was a big Jimmy Garoppolo fan. I had him in all 4 leagues I drafted him in Dynasty Owner, and I still love him, but, probably not going to draft him anymore. But so these teams are the fan club presidents for these players. And how you got to be a fan club president is you have to draft the player higher than at least 1 full round, higher than his ADP. And he have to have been available with your next pick. That goes for a lot of guys, but when you have 11 startup leagues, it's hard to find one person who did all of that as opposed to everybody else. And so these are our nominees for Fan Club President of the Year. And we're going to announce you can read all about the different fan clubs and how they were drafted, when they were drafted, how much they were drafted over other teams in my article, which is posted on Dynasty Owner. But our fan club winner is this guy, the Oracle from League 53521. The Oracle, he drafted Kirk Cousins. And from last year, those of you who have been in Dynasty Owner for a while know Kirk Cousins pretty much never gets drafted. Nobody owns him. He was drafted once last year. Packer hater, our good friend Evan. Congratulations, Evan. You made my presentation here. I DM'd Evan on Twitter so that he's okay with this. He told me a lot of stuff about the pick of Kirk Cousins last year, but he picked Kirk Cousins as the only one last year with the 187th pick. And about a month later, used an amnesty provision to get rid of him. And Cousins, his ownership in Dynasty Owner hovered at around mostly 0% for the year, but got up a little bit to about 1%. But in 11, right now his ownership is below 1%, and that's because the Oracle drafted him with the 69th pick with his 6th round pick. And out of 11 leagues, he was the only person to draft Cousins. And for drafting him so early and being the only one to do it. You are the fan club president right now, the winner of the fan club president so far. So congratulations, or something like that. Next, we have what we call our solitary men. These are players like Kirk Cousins who only drafted in one league. You've got my crush Jimmy Garoppolo there. He was only taken in one league with the 186th pick by Gold Rush. You've got Andy Dalton, who's pretty much keeping the seat warm for Justin Fields in Chicago. And Irish Vader took him with the 197th pick. Then you've got Corey Clement. Somebody really thinks that Corey Clement's going to be something this year because even though he's a free agent, they took him with the 203rd pick. Game over did. Keyshawn Johnson, not the one who wants the damn ball thrown to him, but the wide receiver for Arizona right now. He was the 217th pick in one league by the Fantasy Footballers. And finally, we have Joe Flacco. For some reason, Yoba Goya picked Joe Flacco with pick number 232. I hope it's because you have Jalen Hurts and you are just handcuffing. But that was probably a little too early. You probably could have got him with pick in the last round because nobody else wanted them. These are our solitary men, only drafted in one league. And finally, we've got a few random facts about our first 11 drafts. And we've got the player who was drafted in all 11 drafts, but had the highest ADP, and that's Jalen Guyton of the wide receiver from the LA Chargers. His ADP was 244.3, but with his $540,000 salary for 2021, somebody in every league took him. They just took a while to get him. His ADP is 244.3. Then we want to talk about our favorite players, kickers. The kicker with the lowest ADP this year was Tyler Bass from Buffalo. His was 143.9. So pretty much he was drafted around the 12th round, pretty much on average. The first kicker drafted in any league was Younghoe Koo from the Atlanta Falcons. The Canadian Steelers took him at number 90 overall in league 53520. Hopefully he does as well as he did last year when he was the number 2 kicker overall, but that's a very high premium for a kicker. And then we have a couple of things by the numbers. The total number of players drafted in all 11 startup drafts was 443, which sounds like a lot. But when you think of the fact that Dynasty Owner has over 1,400 players in the player pool, that's only about a third of those players. And then the number of players who drafted in all 11 startup drafts, somebody in every league drafted them, is only 196 players. So that is very interesting. I hope you all enjoyed all of those facts about the startup drafts. And I am back. We're going to still talking about this first weekend of startup drafts. So, and who's interested? This is very interesting stuff to me. I hope it's interesting stuff to you. If you like the video, if you liked my video here, please like it here on YouTube. If you want to know more than just what's in the video here, there's a whole article. It's quite a long read, but hopefully it'll be interesting to people. And we'll find out. More startup drafts will be happening in the next couple of weeks, and maybe we'll refresh this a little bit, see what's going on. We've got rookie drafts coming in a couple of weeks, and those will be exciting starting on May 28th. And lots of great content. Dynasty Owners pushing out content, articles, and videos all the time. So please watch my colleagues, their videos. Please read their articles. Please follow us and follow me at SteveVT33 on Twitter, and follow Dynasty Owner at Dynasty_Owner. Thanks a lot. Hope you have a great weekend and a great day.